I'm here with Gene Busch, one of my favorite field people and favorite persons. Gene Busch came on many years ago. I don't know the exact year. I've had a couple of nights sleep since then, but it was the most unique interview I've ever had. I interviewed you from Thailand on one of the very early video calls. It was Zoom or maybe one of the, I don't know what it was. And I couldn't understand why a guy that was in Thailand was interviewing for a Gulf of Mexico job, but it was an exciting call, and it's been a great ride. It's good to have you here, Gene. I miss you.
Well, thank you. Same goes for me.
You started off working on several clients' boats in the Gulf as a remote paramedic safety guy, and everywhere you went, they always ask for you. And one of the things as a company, when we can send someone out and the company falls in love with them, they're falling in love with Pharma-Safe. And I guess the picture or the presence that you've given us in the field is invaluable to us. And I want to thank you for that, because we've never had a crossword about Gene. The only thing they've always said was, could you have him tone it down a notch? He's 120% and we only need 100% of him. But it's been a good ride. Tell us what your impressions of the company were when you first came on and what they are now.
Well, I didn't know anything about it really. I just kind of been gone overseas a long time and wanted to work back in America. I'd done a little hitch with AMR, and then I was working in Europe, living in Thailand, but working mostly the North Sea in the summers and west coast of Africa in the winters. So I'd been a long time away from America, so I thought, well, this would be pretty cool. And one of our big boats came here to the Gulf, so I wanted to stay. But needed to work with Pharma-Safe because our company wasn't going to work in the Gulf of Mexico that I was with. So, interviewed with you guys and been very happy. I love the way that it's like got a small town feel to it, even though you guys have grown quite large, actually, from a little mom and pop outfit to like one of the major hitters in the safety and medical field for the Gulf and for all of Europe, actually, so and Latin America. So you guys, I've got to grow quite a bit with you guys, and I've been working, bouncing between international and the Gulf of Mexico, or Gulf of America now.
Yeah.
So it's been great. So I've had a lot of variety, met a lot of really good people, and I've really enjoyed the fact that you guys always keep me working, So bounce a lot of different jobs, but always had work, and always work with good people, and that's the big deal, working with the right people. Because half of our life, if you're an offshore guy, half of your life is gone. So you really need to work with good people, because that makes you feel better about yourself and about your working conditions.
Well, you've always had the yes and attitude that we want people to have in the field, because each vessel is different. Each crew is different. If you got a different vibe with Captain A or Captain B.
Yeah, true.
And so you've always been very adaptable to the tasks that they give you. You've always wanted to learn new things. You've won some awards on different projects you've been on that over the years. And it was very easy for us to keep you working, because you had that mindset. You always wanted to help, be of service to people. And, I appreciate the kind words about the company, but that's just the way we're built. We're a servant leadership type company, because if you have a problem, we have a problem. And we realize, and, a lot of companies don't think like this. If it wasn't for you, we couldn't exist. So it's very important for us to make sure that you're happy, you're engaged, we're responsive to whatever problems you have. You are portraying a positive impact on the location, because the last thing we want is their vision of Pharma-Safe to be a disgruntled, unhappy employee that doesn't get any support from the office. That doesn't bode well for future work. So appreciate that. Gene, let's talk about some anecdotal stories or things you can tell. Redact the details if you don't mind, but there may be some new employees that are listening that want to consider going into the offshore environment, remote work environment. Let's talk about what you've been able to do in your life personally while working this type of shift.
Well, there's one thing I'd like to pass on to anyone wanting to work offshore, and that is that they've probably heard there's not a lot of job security. The oil industry goes up and down, and you just never know how long a project's going to last and what's the next project. So I do a good job. A little bit of it's selfish though. The only job security we have in this industry is the quality of your work. So, if all things being equal, they're going to want to go with the most gung-ho person that shows that they truly care about their people. That, you don't want to be the safety police, but you want to be the safety encourager. So I think it's really important to do the best that you can. So if you want to work in the offshore industry, it's not for the half-assed, half-hearted people at all. You need to embrace it, embrace the safety culture and really do your best. And it's not just for Pharma-Safe, that's for yourself personally. So if you work with an OM or work with a client and that client wants you back, they're going to go to Pharma-Safe and tell them that. When there's competition between Pharma-Safe and other companies, if we stand out, and so if we just give the minimum, or if we go over and above, and enthusiastically promote safety, and it makes our job easier. If you're a good safety officer, you don't ever have to be the medic. So if nobody gets hurt, that's kind of nice. And, that's what everybody's looking for. Because all things being equal, a company will judge your boat that you're working on by their safety record. Because the oil industry, they take it for granted that every boat can do its job. So it's really important to have a good safety record and a good camaraderie and people that genuinely show that they care for each other. I think that's something I'd like to pass along is do your best out there. Half your life is going to be offshore if you choose that industry. So make it amount to something, be proud of what you do and everything will fall in place for you.
That's a good point because when we are selling the jobs, when our business development manager is handing the proposal, we promise a day-to-day value to the client. And when we don't meet those expectations, the phone rings and we're called to task. So what you just explained is exactly what our expectation is. And you mentioned selfishly, I think that's an important part. You can play a part in your longevity in the oil and gas industry by doing just what you said, because there have been a lot of folks that use the term, well, that's not my job. And that kind of catches up on them with them really quick, because if it's not something that's dangerous, if it's something you can do to provide a day-to-day value to the client. And I know from his history, when I was managing operations here, you and I used to talk often, and they were always asking you to do different things, new things, revise things, organize things, come up with this, come up with that. And you were always at the ready to do that. So I think
if they get addicted to you, that's even better. So if you give more than what they're expecting, like for Subsea 7, I've actually helped write some of their policies, and I put together their, a lot of their safety programs with their people, and wrote a 26-page step-by-step instructions of how to do all of their programs and everything. And then when I left for a couple of years to work for Oceaneering and came back, it was funny that the guy who was on board didn't know me, and he sent me that and goes, yeah, this was written by a guy that I go, yeah, I wrote that back in 2019. So it's really funny.
I'm the guy.
So it was funny that Juan Salazar, their head fleet manager, had kept that personally and made sure it went to all the boats. And then they, for a while, they were even having every new medic come and work with me for a little bit so that we had continuity, because they liked my style, they liked the way we did things, and that we contributed. Basically, do your job, and then what more can you contribute?
Beautiful. All right. This is your opportunity to talk about whatever you want to talk about. Pharma-Safe, non-Pharma-Safe, personal, sailing, whatever. Just either ask me a question or, you talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Well, what I've enjoyed the most, I think, is also a selfish thing, is the offshore industry is only industry I know about where you can get 6 one-month vacations a year, or if you're the 2-week on, 2-week off, how many people get 2 weeks off every month? Right. So that gives you time to actually travel and explore and have a life that the normal American that works 9 to 5, 5 days a week, he gets 1 or 2 weeks. I mean, it's for the guy who likes to work hard and play hard. So, give it your all. I mean, you're out there anyway, so you may as well do something positive, help people out, prevent injuries.
Gene, have there been any incidents recently that come to mind that would be something we could pass on to everybody else?
Yeah, I think being proactive and being out there, and I basically do safety by education and polite persistence. So people can develop bad habits, and sometimes you just got to stay on them, but you got to do it politely so they don't get defensive. So one case in mind just happened a couple months ago, and we were picking up a clump weight, a big one, and for a long time I'd been lecturing the guys on don't just not get under a load, don't get anywhere near it if you don't have to, because things can bounce and roll on a steel deck.
Right.
So we had a very tested, certified whip line snap with a load that was way less than it was rated for, and a 10,000-pound clump weight fell down, boom, bounced and rolled, and everybody was so thankful that, because I work with this deck foreman all the time and always emphasize, get your guys out of the way. So he got them out of the way, and boy, they thanked him and me for lecturing them and staying on it forever to, if you're not needed right there, get the heck out of the way. Because on just a few months earlier over in Europe, we had not our boat, but a boat next to us in the boatyard, a painter died and the deck foreman died because plate steel fell out of its load and hit the deck and bounced. So the people were not under the load, but they were close enough to the load that 2 people were killed. So it's really important to teach your people and don't be complacent, Constantly look after them like they're your children. And if you do that, you could save a life, because it's only, people do the same thing all the time and you're always talking about complacency, but what really is it? It's basically not seeing the risk of something that you do all the time. These guys have picked up clump weights forever. A lot of times they'd been like 5 feet away from it. If they would have done that time, 1 or 2 of them could have got killed. So you need to babysit your guys. HSE guys, we're basically babysitters for adults. So look after your people, and that gives you job security, and it makes you feel good. I felt really good when all these people gave me an attaboy and all that stuff, and the client, gave me a little award and stuff, because they knew that we saved lives by being proactive and politely teaching people to go beyond. Just like OSHA, there's a minimum standard, and then there's the go beyond standard. So go beyond, learn a lot about safety, constantly be training yourself and looking up stuff and reading, and then utilize it, out on the deck. So be there, be visible, and do your job, and you'll get a good satisfaction, you'll get a good paycheck, and life will be good.
Yeah, one of the things we struggle with as a contractor to the oil and gas industry is that quite often we're put out there to be oversight or medical support, but we're kind of one-off from the actual operations, and quite often our diligence, if not handled the way you explained it, is treated as less. It's not treated the way we would like it to be accepted, and we're not taken seriously. So by teaching those adult learners, average is 7 times you have to tell an adult something before they're taking it. That. Well, if the average is 7, it means sometimes you got to do it 14. Yeah. So your discussion about polite persistence it's so true in this situation, because you have to continually do it. We've been doing a lot of studying on human performance and safety in the last 6 months. And it's pretty obvious sometimes we get put in some sticky situations. Can you describe a conflict that arose that you had to be the mediator or the de-escalator between operations and what the client wanted, and you had to kind of solve a tough problem on the deck or on the vessel?
Well, I've been incredibly blessed with decades offshore of always seem to get with good deck crews and really good clients. I've been blessed with just the best HSE clients. Somehow we've developed a rapport, and to be honest, we seldom ever have a conflict. We'd had one with weather conditions and things not being stable, so I had to, politely remind them that, you guys always say, if it's check the conditions all the time, and if the conditions, aren't right, call it all stop. And then they had to agree with that. So I was just reminding them of their own policy, very politely, of course, because, it's a client. You got to sugarcoat things a little bit. Mm-hmm. But mostly, it seems like the industry, I've either been really lucky or it's really attracted some good people. I've been working with some companies where the senior client reps and their HSE have been really good. And then I've also been fortunate enough to have great deck foremen and great deck crews. So once they work with you, you need to develop a rapport and you need time with them, So that's why it's nice if you can work with the same people often. So I've found that everything is how you phrase it and word it. Like we have these stop cards, so if you see an unsafe act or an unsafe condition, you correct it. And you can either write a negative card, about it, or you can politely correct them, which solves the purpose. Then you can write a positive card of, something good that they did. Because some of the companies, you're only allowed to write opportunities for improvement. I really don't like the negative word. In some companies, you can write positive cards also. So correct it and write a positive card. Like I've had people grabbing loads with their hands, which is a no-no with every company. So I'd, stopped them and got him a push-pull, went and got it myself, gave it to him, and I go, look, you guys are in a fishbowl. The guys up there in the bridge are looking, and if they see you touching it, you could get sent off the job or at least get chastised. They go, yeah. So I wrote a card that observed a rigging crew using push-pull poles to stay with the, no hands contact. I could have wrote a negative card, but by showing them that you're not the safety police, you're actually genuinely looking after them, their reputation and their safety, it just goes smooth. And then you develop these good rapport and, you can almost finish each other's sentences. So like I said, I've been blessed that I get to work with the same people quite often. So care about them, and everything is how you word things. You can be the safety police, or you can be a guy who's looking after their safety for them and their family. And if they perceive you as that, they're going to do what you tell them. And if they don't, you can't be with them all the time. So if you build a good safety culture where you have, shared values, they're going to follow those safety procedures when you're not there, when you're off shift or when you're not on the deck, when you're eating or something. So it's important to, I think, have that balance where you are a part of their team and you're building the safety culture so that they're their own safety officer. And then clients pick up on that, and then everybody's happy and we all have work.
Let's talk about your typical day offshore. Like, dial back to your last hitch shift and tell me what your typical day is like. Okay.
Well, I always get up like an hour and a half early. So I hit the gym first thing because I'm almost 70. So I got to keep up with these youngsters, so I can have a longer time out there. And then, have my breakfast and then go find out what's going to be going on. So I make sure that our control of work is in place first. So I make sure that we have, the permits are there, the toolbox talks, the JSEAs, or task risk assessments, and make sure they're dated properly and they weren't just a generic job thing. They need to be job specific. So I'll correct those if there's any errors in them, politely, and guys are always happy. And then I check the last ones, because one thing that I've learned are messing up the most is not having an after action review. When you finish the tasks with every company, you're also supposed to, say, okay, what went well, what could we have changed? And people are notoriously terrible about forgetting to fill in that part. So, and when we get audited, a lot of auditors, that's one of the areas where all the big hitters even fail. So I remind them of that. So paperwork is really important. Then once I know all the paperwork's right and everybody signed it all, then I go out to the job. And I work a lot of ROV projects where we pick up big, heavy assets off the deck and we set them down below and the ROVs put them together. So I basically just observe and make sure that everybody is complying with all the safety rules, that everybody has their proper PPE on, that barricades are up. I basically just do my own personal risk assessment. And then at all the toolbox talk, that's one of my big things I push on a lot is you do your toolbox talk, you have your TRA, but the best thing where you can save people is for them to be their own safety officer, and right before you start a task, do your own 60-second individual personal risk assessment. Okay, what am I getting ready to do? What out here can hurt me? Are there any new hazards that weren't on the JSA? And basically that. Take a minute, analyze your work environment, look for new hazards, sim ops going on. You don't want to be welding if someone's painting with explosive vapor paint a little ways away. So basically just reminding the guys constantly to look out for each other and themselves and monitor the work and look for hazards, eliminate the hazards, or mitigate the hazards to risks that are as low as reasonably practicable, because that's our job. And so I'm a babysitter for adults. So I just, look for unsafe conditions, correct those. Look for unsafe acts and correct those. And then make sure we document everything. And then when I'm on shift, I make sure that we have an after-action review. Okay, what did we do good? What could we have done better? And then we go back and modify the JSAs, and then we have lessons learned so that the method of doing that particular job improves and gets safer and safer over time. And that's pretty much it. That's all I do every single day is I find out what we're going to do, I observe it, I correct things, and document them and try and encourage the people to continually improve the safety culture. That's my number one job. It's simple, but it's detail-oriented.
What percentage of your day is in the office versus on the deck?
Well, that depends on what part of the rotation it is. Like when I first get there, I'm in the office a lot because we've got to do our inventory of all of our medical supplies, and that takes a long time. But once I get that done, then I'm out on the deck over 50% of the time, sometimes 75% of the time.
Do you participate in the work planning with operations before it happens?
It all depends on, if I'm with my regular OMs that know me, yes. If I'm with someone new, they're not used to the medic or HSE guy doing that. But like the people that I've been with a long time, yeah, I've even helped write the TRAs and things. So it all depends on who you're with, how comfortable they are with you, and how knowledgeable you are, in that field. So they will utilize you if you're valuable to them. And you can also give your own input at any time. Everybody's always usually conducive to getting, positive input to help improve things.
Anything else you want to talk about?
No, just want to thank you for all the opportunities you've given me, and appreciate it. And I hope I make it a couple more years for you, and we'll continue to promote Pharma-Safe out there and lead by example.
Thank you, Gene. Good talking to you, man.